Okay, welcome everyone. I'm so happy to see you all here tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about math and how to teach math in everyday life. Um, I don't know how, but I'll tell you one thing. My math ends in grade 8. That's all I know. I cannot go further than grade 8 math in teaching my kids. I have 5 kids, and 4 of them went on into STEM careers, into engineering, bioscience, biology and chemistry, and math teaching. So they did it. They did it all through home education. So I can hopefully assure you tonight that your kids will have a really, really good background in math, whether you want to teach them or not. Yeah. So let's go. My name is Judy Arnall, and I have, for my work, I actually teach child development. I have taught 13 years for the University of Calgary, continuing ed, and 13 years for Alberta Health Services. I'm certified in the brain story and also in the growing brain from 0 to age 5. I've written numerous books on non-punitive parenting, and I also do education consulting. I really, really embrace non-punitive parenting. And that's probably one of the reasons I homeschooled all the way. All my kids, I never thought I'd do it all the way, but they just wanted to keep going. But I just didn't like the coercion that was present in the school system. And we are really big unschoolers. Now, if you don't know much about unschooling is empowering kids to learn through their play and their interests. And it's not forcing worksheets, structured learning, textbooks, whatever they don't want to do, it's not forcing them on them. And for when you talk to unschoolers, probably the last thing they let go of is math. They're really worried about math. And a lot of unschoolers secretly teach math because they don't want to let that go. But we didn't. But on the other hand, you do teach math through everyday life. And that's what we're really going to look at tonight. Okay, I have a blog. If you want more information, I got lots of articles on there about our journey, unschoolingtouniversity.com. And I also have a blog on non-punitive parenting under my name. So welcome. Now, we love teachers and we love learning. Most of us find the system problematic in that it doesn't teach our kids what we think they need for the future or what they should know. So, yeah. So here's my 2 oldest ones. And if you look at little kids, they love to learn. They're so curious and passionate and creative. And you look at, well, when do they lose that? And especially in the STEM pathways. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. The acronym is STEM. Tonight, we're kind of focusing on math, but they are all very much intertwined. It's really, really hard to do science if you don't have higher order mathematics or for some technology and definitely for engineering. I think that's all my engineer did for the first year was mathematics and physics. And the big question is, what if? You want kids at that early age, they go, what if? Let's find out. They are early scientists and mathematicians. And then when they become 15, it's more like, oh, well, who cares? But will it be on the test? Their passion and their curiosity has really, really waned. So you want to preserve their love of mathematics because kids tools. They want tools to solve problems. And that's all math is tools to solve everyday problems. And with those tools, you need creativity and you also need to learn basic math operations to solve those problems. And tonight, I hope to convince you that kids pick those up no matter what you do. They pick up those basic operations. So I'm going to jump through slides, a lot of slides here. You teach math when kids are born, really. There's Here's my little 2-year-old, and he's looking at counting and books on time. And you know what? He didn't get those concepts. Most kids don't understand time, the concept of time, until age 7. But he liked the colorful pictures, and he would use his vocabulary to name the pictures. And here he is at 22 taking apart another computer. He's the engineer. And here is there's so many ways to teach math without workbooks, without textbooks, which a lot of kids don't want to do. There are ways to teach that involve all these things: people, experiences, travel, books, movies, computer, video games. I'm a big video gamer. Stay to the end. Siblings, mentorships, all these things teach math for sure. Okay, so going this way. So I'm gonna cross over all these things because we're not going to use these. No. There we go. Okay, I have to tell you this story. So when my engineer was 2 years old, he loved to lie on his stomach like this, and he liked to twang those door stoppers. It kept him so busy, very noisy, but hey, it kept him busy. That was great. And then one day he came home from his class in engineering, and he wrote me an email because he was out of province, and he said, "Hey, Mom, these days I'm doing analysis on oscillating machines, like the door stopper. You know, the spring ones where you pull it to the side and it goes twang. Who would have thought I'd be doing the same thing today in school as I was doing 22 years ago?" Right? So the beauty about math when you're homeschooling is you can use everyday life, everything you do in life to teach math without actually teaching or without kids going, "Oh, that's math." They can learn it in experientially and through their daily lives and what they do. Okay, I'll just kind of tell you about our story. Like I said, I had 5 kids, and by the time my oldest reached grade 2, he was a late reader, and we found their learning needs were not met in the system. So I pulled them out to homeschool, and like everybody else who starts out, we try and replicate school in the home, and we find out pretty quickly it does not work. Home is safe, it's fun, there's lots to do. Kids stop listening to me as a teacher, and more I stopped homeschooling and I just continued playing and having fun with my kids. You can see here, my engineer wrote on his math book, "I hate mathematics." And somewhere along the way, when we ditched the books and the workbooks, he got his love of mathematics back. And we just continued. So my role started from teacher, but then I quickly moved into facilitator role. So I would make sure the environment was stimulating, make sure we had toys and games and supplies, and then the kids could use them. Yeah. So we did that for the next until about grade 8. And I said to the kids at that age, I said, "Well, what do you want to do? Do you want to do a more high school program that's through home ed?" And they did. All of them went through home education high school, where we got marks and credits and a government transcript through our school board, our homeschooling board. And like every other kid in the province, if they want credits in math and science, they have to write the diploma exams. So they wrote 23 grade 12 diploma exams. 14 were in STEM, so mathematics and science, and their average marks were 78%. The provincial average is 65%. So it didn't hurt them at all starting their formal math education in grade 8. Okay, so I have 4 university graduates now. They went to 10 Canadian universities, and they were all accepted to 10 universities based on their grade 12 diploma exam marks. And yeah, so I wrote this book called Unschooling to University, where I talk about them and 25 of their little friends that all went off to university at the same time. And the 30 kids were unschooled 3 to 12 years. They were all accepted to college, tech, and university. And 22 of them have already graduated, probably more because that was about 2018. Two have mastered a master's level. And of those 30 kids, there were 11 that went into STEM, four engineers, nine into humanities, and 10 into the arts. Okay, so let's talk about the brain. Okay, so like I said, kids are learning math from day one. Little babies and toddlers are learning about math, or what we should say, pre-math concepts, right? So learning is a biological process, and it's absolutely certain. Every child's going to learn because their brains are constantly connecting. This is brain connection in action. You can see this brain cell here, this neuron, is going to send a neurotransmitter down its axon to the axon terminals to the neighboring brain cells dendrite right here. And you can see there's a little gap between them. That's called a synapse, and that's what neurotransmitters cross that synapse to the neighboring brain cells. And that's what happens when we say they connect. And this happens for hundreds and billions of brain cells. So learning is going to happen whether a child learns math through a workbook or through a video game. It's going to happen. Let's see that again. Pretty cool. So play is one of the best ways kids learn until age 13. They learn a lot of concepts. I know because I asked my kids to write the grade 6 provincial achievement tests, and they did very well in math and English. They did just as good as their school counterparts. So what so play is good. Play is very hands-on up until age 13. And then you can see play is going to transfer to computers and more technology. So I'm just going to skip through this whole section on play. But let's look at brain development. So from age 0 to 12, well, through all our life, our brains develop from the bottom to the top and from the back to the front. And this is the last part to develop, the frontal lobe. This is ages 6 to 12, and then that prefrontal lobe is from 12 on. That's when they start getting abstract thinking skills, and kids can handle abstract concepts. So until age 13, they have to understand math in terms of tangibles. What's in their life right now? They have to see it, touch it, smell it, taste it, really, really experience math concepts. And then that builds a foundation for understanding theoretical math from age 13 on. Okay. Now math, the beauty, the propensity towards STEM and math, I often ask this question, is it biology or is it socialization? And it's very much both, right? It's nurturing and nature. But we tend to have negative messages about math to our females. When my daughter was in grade 3, she went to school for 3 months because she really, really wanted to try it, and I let her. And she had to write the grade 3 provincial achievement tests at that time. She noticed, she was only 8 years old, and she noticed that 70% of that exam had a male example in the math test. Now, that is very, very subtle socialization that maybe math is more for boys and not so much for girls, right? So we have to be very careful that we encourage all children can learn and are good at math. So I'm not going to talk about babies' brains or toddler brains because I think we're done. I just want to say here, toys marketed for babies and toddlers and preschoolers and school-age kids as STEM, so they teach math. Yeah, they do, but so does a lot of other things teach. You don't need to buy expensive STEM toys, definitely. But one thing I do want to point out is kids learn to walk and we don't teach them when they're babies, right? Children learn to talk and we don't teach them. And that's the same thing for math too. Um, Now, toddlers up until age 3, they learn mostly through play. We had on the Facebook group, we had a lady ask what curriculum she should be giving her preschool. And I am so happy everyone said play. Kids learn through play up until age 12. They definitely do. Play and multi-sensory experiences and yeah, and just make sure childproofing. Screen time, not really recommended because they're learning their languages mostly at that age, right? Preschoolers, that's age 3 to 5. Okay. At this age, they're really, really growing their imagination and they have a short attention span, but they can learn some things. But again, it should be through play and through all their 5 senses: hearing, seeing, touching, smelling, tasting. So they're good with sand and water and dirt. They're good with all kinds of different play materials. Here's some too. Um, yeah, sand, water, toys, all kinds of interesting stuff. I would stay away from the kits under age 5 just because they're very prescriptive and this should be free play. They can combine and create as they want. There's open-ended play means no one right way to play it. So if you look at a shape sorter, right? That's only one way to play. What that star shape can only go in the star hole. It's not very creative. And yeah, it's very much prescriptive. Where if you give kids cushions, they will learn about gravity and physics, which they need for math too. And that's very open-ended. So more things like water, blocks, things like that, Play-Doh. Okay, so that's what you do for toddlers and preschoolers. Lots of free play and multi-sensory experiences. Baking is very good for pre-math skills. So letting them bake cookies, anything that's baking, they start learning fractions. Gardening is really good and anything like that. And you want to not be gender specific. You want to get your boys toy kitchens and toy dolls because you know what? They're going to grow up and be chefs and obstetricians. You want to get your girls microscopes and drones because they're going to grow up to be scientists and engineers. You really want to not genderize their learning. And science is great. It's all around us. Everything's all around us. School age. So again, 6 to 12, this is when kids typically enter school. The first 3 years in school are learning to read. The last 3 years in elementary education is reading to learn. But you don't have to do that at home. You can use hands-on experiences to build those early knowledge in physics, biology, chemistry, and mathematics. You can do that. So school age children, they're really good experimenters. They do everything toddlers and preschoolers do. They love crafts, they love play, but they're not so much putting things in their mouths anymore. They like to talk about things rather than taste things. So this is the age we buy all this wonderful math curriculum and we give it to them. And do they like it? A lot of kids don't. And this is where they start getting complexes around math. Like it's boring. It's too hard. It's too easy. I don't want to do this. And I would say if your child doesn't want to do math workbooks, don't make them. They have plenty of time. When they're 13 and you can sit down with them and say, hey, do you want to go into a career that needs math? And they go, yeah. Then you say, okay, are you willing to learn few more abstract concepts about math and learn how to do math on paper, math operations. And they'll say, yeah, I guess I could. Then you bring out the books and the workbooks. But until then, they can learn a lot of math through just fun stuff. Okay. How do they learn math at this age? Um, Internet, gaming, hands-on activities, a lot of free play, a lot of experimentation, and I'd say nothing prescribed. Get them to find out why things happen. A lot of conversations. If you can get them things like microscopes, telescopes, things like that. Play open-ended games like chess. The chess is very good for logic and reasoning. Joining maker groups, get them in the kitchen, the workshop, sewing, and gardening. Great things to teach about math. Super good. Get them Lego, Connects, Meccano, blocks, take them to zoos, aquariums, and science centers. More things you could do. Well, these are more sciencey things. Yeah. Host clubs like a Minecraft, coding, Lego club, maybe even a math club if you want. Kids love to do things together that they wouldn't normally do in their own. Yeah, so more of those things. Now, mathematics, there's a lot of toys that teach math. These are some of them. If you have a phone handy, feel free to take a picture of this. And there's a lot of board games that teach math. I would say our 5 kids, that's all we did during the school age years through math is teaching board games or just playing board games. And they had a lot of computer games. A lot of these aren't available anymore, but they were sure fun and available. There's probably a lot of math apps right now that are fun and teach kids through a medium that they absolutely love. If you want to teach computer programming and coding, there's still Code Academy. That's still around. We love the videos of Bill Nye, the science guy. Mythbusters was really fun videos too, because they would take in some math applications and into their videos. So these are the board games, the toys, computer and audio video games. So more things. This is how kids from 6 to 13 learn skip counting. We had a trampoline and we would go on the trampoline and we count on every 3, the kids would have to sit on their butts. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's how they learned greatest common factors and greatest common multiple, lowest common multiples. I always get those mixed up. But that's what skip counting does, is it teaches them multiples, which is, the beginning of learning their multiplication tables. I never, ever, ever taught my 5 kids multiplication tables or forced them to memorize them. But it just naturally happens through life for sure. Fractions, these are baking fractions. So it really shows a child how fractions work. They learned a lot of math concepts through Lego, and also I was taking them to the post office regularly so they could, or getting them to help me measure out volume by what you need to post, and getting them to figure out what those volumes are. We also had a lot of math posters around our house. So this is our hallway. You can see we have place value right here. I don't know whether the kids ever looked at it, but it was there for 20 years in our house. I liked it. Same thing here too. This is posters that I post up in the kids' bathroom. Why? Because they're in there brushing their teeth every night and every morning, and they need something to look at. We needed cereal boxes to read while we were eating our Saturday morning cereal. They need something to do too. And you know what? I think a lot of these things sunk in for them. I would laminate the posters and I would put them above the toilet. And I would change them up every month. I had about 20 posters on science and math, and then on grammar too, like what's a noun, what's a pronoun. And I think that really helped them stare at something pretty well. More things you can do is just use everyday life. When you have pizza, ask them how to share in equivalent to the number of people that are eating. Get them some pattern blocks. They can really make shapes, they can have fun. And I wouldn't read the teacher cards on how to construct an activity. I would take the bucket of pattern blocks, dump it on the table, and wait for them to walk by and go, oh, I want to play with these. That's it. I would not teach anything. They would just play and learn through their experimentation. We always took our kids to building workshops at Home Depot and Lowe's and let them experiment there. I would always bring a tape measure so they could measure things and learn how measurement's important in building. And of course, Lego is just a fantastic math teacher. There's lots of sites you can do that. I just want to mention here, your attitude matters. You can either make or break STEM curiosity. So I would say yes as much as possible. If your kids want to do something sciencey or mathy, go with it. Support them. Say yes. Now, if they make messes, tolerate it a bit, but be sure to teach them to clean up. You know, they need to know that part too. And don't fix their creations. The number of parents who fix their kids' projects in these building workshops, I just, it was so sad. You want to let kids own their projects and they will learn. They will learn how to fix mistakes and approach those mistakes as learning opportunities and say, okay, that leg didn't quite support that table. What are you going to do instead? How can we fix it? You know, and get them to do that. I'm not going to talk about that. And I'm not going to talk about this, but just keep in mind that kids learn to read and they learn to do basic arithmetic in those years. And we don't teach it. They just pick it up all around them. Then they hit the teen years. So we're talking now age 13 to 19. Okay. These are the years they start to learn how to do math on paper. How do you add fractions without a common denominator? How do you add decimals? How do you multiply and divide? How do you do long division? And they can pick it up really, really fast. I would say most of my kids picked it up in 1 year in grade 8. Why? Because their brain's ready. Okay. So from 6 to 12, they're very concrete. They need tangible learning. But in puberty, they get their abstract and theoretical understanding, and they can really, really do things like essays and mathematics. So I'm not saying that experiential learning isn't helpful. I mean, maybe they're a strong kinesthetic learner. It's great. We adults still like experiential learning, but now they're ready for paperwork and online work and creativity online. So if you can still teach through 5 senses, go for it. But now they'd be ready for online classes or workbooks and textbooks for their math. But please, please, please don't forget that math is only tools to solve everyday problems. So I talk about this in my book of Unschooling to University. My daughter was 13 and we got her half a cheesecake from the cheesecake, whatever, restaurant. And we got this in a box and it was expensive. It was like $20 back then. And a whole cheesecake was 40. And we took it out of the box and I thought, that doesn't quite look like half. And I said to the kids, do you think that looks like half a cheesecake? And they said no. And I said, okay, time to figure out how can we prove this, that we know this isn't half a cheesecake? And so we had a lesson in pie, right? And we wrote an email to the restaurant and said, I think there was an inch shaved off here because here's the mathematical calculations. And they were very nice and gave us a coupon for a whole cheesecake. and the kids were really happy, and they saw how you could apply a math formula like pi to real applications. So you want to make math come alive as much as you can. And you can do that more than they can do in math in school, because by grade 7, math in school is very much theoretical and paperwork, but kids don't get a whole lot of opportunity to apply it to everyday problem solving, right? Math teachers are dealing with 30, 40 kids. You're not. You can take the time to do this and explain it. And don't forget, again, teenagers still love to play with Lego, and they still love playing games. And at this point, we would play cribbage with our kids, we'd play poker, blackjack, we would introduce all these other math games for them. We still had some math concepts around. This was very useful for grades 7, 8, 9, these nets and volume measures, so they could actually see the sides to geometric solids. Very helpful, very expensive. If you go to curriculum sales, load up on things like these because you'll pay a fortune somewhere else. In teenagers, we introduced perimeter and area. We did this through renovating our basement, and our son got special projects credit for the renovation by learning math skills through building a basement. They learned angles, they learned perimeters and areas and other math concepts that you need for building. And again, like I said, here's my son learning how to use tools too and safely. But there's other projects too, like my daughter, she's mapping out her measurements for her cosplay uniform. And we got that funded through special projects too. So there are many ways to use math in teenagerhood through applications that they're really, really going to love. I talked before about how all 5 kids built a gaming computer and claim the parts and the skills learned through special projects. Now, at this stage, they're introduced to the concept of a variable. Although it is coming down lower in the curriculum, the Alberta Programs of Study is starting to teach grade 1s about variables now. Not too sure that's going to stay, but I just don't think grade 1 can understand a variable. It's such an abstract concept. They need to see, feel, and touch things. They can't understand things that are not there yet. But by age 13, kids can. So these are ways to teach those in a more hands-on method. Here's your x squared plus 4x plus 3. And that's the same with this too, but it's everyday life. It's crackers. So here's a little joke I just love throwing in there. Dear Math, I'm tired of finding your ex. Just move on, buddy. She's gone. So again, I can't stress enough, grade 8 is that pivotal bridge from mental math to paper math. These are everything covered in grade 8, according to the Alberta Programs of Study. That may change in a few years when they bring in the new math curriculum, but right now, that was a good foundational course for my kids. I put them either online with a teacher, and then we just unschooled grade 9 again, did what we want. And then grade 10, 11, 12, they did do Alberta Programs of Study outcomes for their math education. So we follow grade 8, 10, 11, and 12 to give them a good solid base in high school mathematics. So in grade 8, we learned factor trees, again, addition, subtraction, skip counting, multiplication, dividing, perfect squares, fractions, decimals, BEDMAS, rate, ratio, percent, place value, integers, algebra, equations, perfect squares. I think I said that already. Geometry, measurement, polynomials introduction, exponents, statistics and probability of graphs, charts, mean, median, and mode, and an introduction to the Pythagoras theorem in grade 8. And you know what? They did all that in 1 year. 1 year. And it's not like they're starting from grade one and condensing 8 years into 1 year. It's they can get through 1 year because they have learned all this experientially. Um, Maybe not on paper, but they get the concept of it. And then when they get it on paper, they understand the underpinnings of it. Their brain is ready. Here's another bad joke. What do you get if you divide the circumference of a pumpkin by its diameter? Pumpkin pie. Okay. How do they learn this? How can you teach math without a workbook? And I have an article about this. This you can go to unschoolingtouniversity.com and look for that, just search for this article, Ways to Learn Math Without a Workbook. Okay. You can learn it through play. So they learn adding and subtracting through shopping. That's a good one to learn. Multiplying and dividing through sharing. If they have to share with siblings, they will want to make sure everything's fair. Fractions and decimals through baking and shopping. Percents, they learn through figuring out tips in restaurants, or taxes, how much taxes are on or shipping on things they buy. Estimation through shopping. Perimeter, renovations. Area, through wrapping gifts. Get them wrapping their Christmas presents and everybody else's too. Volume, they learn through postage. Least common factors, they learn through groceries. You know, how many hot dog buns you need for a different packaged amount of hot dogs. Greatest common multiples, same thing, groceries. More variables, they learn through problem solving. Place value, shopping, coordinates, and ordered pairs. Battleship is a really, really good game to teach that. Rounding through shopping. Angles, properties, renovation, and bowling. I took up bowling 2 years ago, and for me to get those really extreme side pins, I was figuring out the angles, and I used Pythagoras theorem. Still haven't mastered them, but I tried. Temperature, weather. By paying attention to the weather, they learn temperature and they learn integers. Time, the 24-hour clock, they'll learn it through airports and hospitals. Roman numerals, my kids learn that through reading Asterix and Obelix books. Graphs, they can learn through looking at news sources, either internet or newspapers. Even in odd numbers, that you can learn that through geography, or even just learning how to drive and house numbers. Properties of geometric solids, baking. Hang on, I got to move my taskbar here. Slides, turns, rolls, and flips. They'll learn that through skating or gymnastics or watching them. They learn symmetry through mirrors, and perfect squares through art projects. So all these things in grade up to grade 8, they will learn through play and real life. Now, these things are more high school and junior high. Pythagorean theorem, algebra, calculus, they will learn these things more through book work. Okay, so about age 13 onwards. Those are abstract concepts. So, but by that age, they're motivated to pursue paperwork. You don't have to nag them. They're pretty good at learning at that age. And they have the self-control. So this is a map. It's a graph that shows you the amount of self-control kids have. You can see here, they take that final leap of self-control around age 13 up until age 25. And that's the ability to put things they want to do on hold and do things they have to do. Now, here's an interesting concept. So my 18-year-old, when he took his first math course in grade 10, he was 18. This is his printing on day 1. Look how bad that is. I mean, he can't even fit it into those little lines. And I just thought, okay, practice can start at any time. Day 60, this was 2 months later, and look how nice and neat those are now. right? Anybody can learn anything at any time. That is the model of unschoolers. Calculus in grade 12. So three of my kids needed calculus, and about age 19, 20, they took it. They could mostly self-teach, but they did need some tutorial help at some point. So kids can learn anything if they're motivated, and you don't have to worry and think, oh dear, they got to know long division by grade 5 or they're never ever going to be a doctor. Not true. They can learn anything at any age. Absolutely. And that kind of shows you how unschoolers do it. I mean, when most kids get off the play track and go to school, unschoolers keep playing, and still at age 17, they decide, hey, I want to take calculus. I'm going to learn it, or I'm going to learn Math 30. And I'm really going to work hard, but I'm going to learn it. And they do, and they get the credentials to go on to post-secondary. Okay, so teenagers, STEM education for them, obviously books, internet, lectures, Khan Academy. I can't say enough about Khan Academy. They are fantastic at videos, teaching in math, science, and a lot of other subjects. They're now even expanding and teaching university subjects. Self-education research, projects, experiential learning, essays, mathematics, blogs, gaming, hands-on activities, structured experiments, joining maker groups, learning coding, maybe taking formal courses, maybe really engaging tutors and instructors. And they learned again through getting them in the kitchen, in the workshop, in the sewing room, gardening, and the craft cupboard. Much more. Okay, so let's talk about video games. This is the final thing I'm going to talk about. I cannot stress enough how wonderful video games are at teaching STEM skills. Um, and really, true screen time addiction is very rare. Very, very rare. What we know about the brain now is that most kids in a healthy, nurturing environment where they don't have toxic stress do not develop addictions, no matter how much screen time they get. That is the science now. It's good news science. Yes, screen time is compelling. It's motivating. People at all ages love it, kids and us, but it's mostly bad habits. And if you want to change habits, 21 days, you can change a habit. I know my kids, I worried because we were kind of non-restrictive video game people as unschoolers. And when my kids went to university, um, all the game manufacturers would release the new games during exam time, like April, spring. And I would be like, oh, really? Why? You guys have to study. And the kids would, they were really good. They would hold off on buying the games until they were done university exams, or, you know, if they were at work, got very good at managing their time, and they didn't need years and years of practice of management. They did from age 17 on. And that's that executive function we talked about, and that self-control way back here is that kids, I really noticed it at age 17. And a lot of my unschooling friends, this is purely anecdotal, is that we notice a huge measure of 17 self-control kick in at that age. So kids are really, really not addicted, but could manage their screen time. And even for younger kids, if you have rich language and conversations with your kids, you have tech-free times for everybody, they get enough exercise, a lot of social time, maybe at meal times, and healthy sleep hygiene practices. Screen time is not a problem for healthy life. I just want to talk about gaming. Esports is a $180 billion revenue industry that needs math skills. math skills. Video gaming gives skills that lead to STEM careers in programming, engineering, and cybersecurity. And those things are just going to grow for the future. And all games teach STEM skills, problem solving, creativity, innovation, coding, and math. They build executive function skills. They teach kids how to be attentive, how to plan, how to organize, how to have patience, critically think, and how to manage their strong emotions of anger and frustration when they don't get anywhere. They teach coding. STEAM Workshops is a community of game modders. Lots of good stuff out there that teach kids computer skills. By the way, that picture is we had every Friday afternoon, we'd have kids over and they would compute, they would play games, they would have fun together. We had boys and girls, and it was just so much fun. We hosted it because we wanted the socialization aspect. The parents would drop off, they would have free time, and they all dropped off snacks, which was really, really good. But if you want to get your teens involved in something, maybe consider hosting a interest-based group at your house. Group video games build people skills. So empathy, competence, connection, autonomy, teamwork, cooperation, communication, and conflict resolution, especially when they're going with group games and guilds. And of course, you know your child best and you know how age appropriate that might be. I want to stress, get your girls gaming on. Again, that socialization thing, girls are just as good at video games as boys, and yet why are there no girls in professional gaming, right? Is it biology or is it socialization? It's socialization. A lot of the games marketed to girls focus on caring for animals or decorating themselves. The games marketed to boys focus on critical thinking and problem solving. Girls need those too, and so do boys need caregiving skills. And be aware of what you see in the media. These are ads for STEM classes for kids. The boy is doing, the girl is watching. On this ad, there's six boys, one token girl. What does that tell our females? That math is not for them. This is one girl who's building her gaming computer. They have to see pictures of themselves doing math. So that's good. So I'm going to conclude here and just take questions. And I'm just going to recap. Your kids are going to learn math whether you teach it or not. When they're 1 year, they learn to walk. They're 3 years, they learn to talk. When they're 7 years, they learn how to read, print, do arithmetic, times tables, and keyboarding. Whether you teach it or not, they'll pick it up. By 13, they learn how to write, do mathematics, code, do spreadsheets, and game mods. And by the time they're 15 to 20 years, they will learn abstract thinking and learning. They will have formal STEM instruction or they'll be self-taught, but they can do it. Absolutely, they can do it. They will be smarter than you. You can't know or fast forward ahead to see how much your kids know through the internet that you don't think they know, but they learn and they pick up. It is fantastic. So math is all around us in everyday life. Utilize it. Show them how it applies to your everyday life problems. Okay, at this point, oh, and if you want the book, Unschooling to University, I can ship it out for $20 postage. It's a thick one, so it doesn't fit in that letter mail. But just e-transfer me to jarnall@shaw.ca, $20. Give me your address, and I will stick a book in the mail for you. Okay, thank you for joining me. And if you have questions, let's hear them. I'm going to pause the recording to protect your privacy here. So one of the questions is, and this is a common fear, is math concepts. And we hear all the time that math has to be systematic. Like they have to build and build on skills and learn. And if we just, jump in there in grade 8, what are they going to miss? Will they miss anything? And I'm I don't I don't think so. I think that chart I showed, let's see if I can go back here to that grade 8 chart. Yes. You can see here that this is everything they learned from grade 1 up until grade 9. Pretty well. Okay. Um, they're not going to miss things. So I don't know how to assure yourself that if by the end of grade 8 your child has learned all this in 1 year of grade 8, and believe me, the Alberta programs of study, they cover it all again. They start from just basic addition, subtraction, and go through all those things again in grade 8. And if you're really, really worried, you can take a brush up course in grade 10. I think it's called Math 15. And two of my kids took that. And it was a brush up course covering all this stuff again before they entered high school math. Okay. Because they know that kids' brains are ready. They're ready to absorb a lot of um, complex things very, very quickly because they are building on what kids know experientially. Um, the other thing is that when you think about it, teachers need a job for 40 hours a week, right? They need a full-time job. They have to be teaching something for 40 hours. Um, kids, a lot of kids, parents need childcare for quite a lot, like at least 30 hours a week. So, what the school system does is expand mathematics to fill the time, right? Kids do not need 2 hours of math 5 days a week. They don't. They don't need constant repetition. And we know that in our math skills, what kids are not getting is that application of the formulas to real life problems, right? And I will have to say, as the brain works, we know that if kids stop using concepts, let's say polynomials, right? Factoring polynomials. How many adults use that in their work life? Not many, not many. But we all had to learn it and we all ditched it out of our brains as soon as we knew we weren't going to need that on a daily basis. So, sure, that's one good way to stimulate those neurons, but video games are another very good way to stimulate those neurons, right? Um, so we don't have to do that all the time. We don't need constant reworking of math tools unless we really need it for, a career in math. And there are people that need it. Maybe 15% need like calculus, but the rest of us don't need calculus. And if we miss it, it's okay. It's okay to miss things. If we need it, we pick it up. There's also high school courses at university that upgrade, and there's also upgrading too. So, for example, some of my kids, we went into high school, and other than that grade 8 math course, we did all our socials and language arts first from grade 10 to 12. And then we started on math and science at about age 17, 18, 19. So there's no rush. Your children are funded for teacher taught courses until the September 1st they turn 20. So they have 5 years of high school if they want to spread it out. And I would say later is better because their brain's that much more mature. So believe me, I remember like that too. I remember forcing my kids to learn long division in grade 5 because it was in the grade 5 curriculum. We were all in tears. We'd never do it again. And I never ever came back to long division, and all five of my kids know how to long divide without a calculator. So when they need it, they'll pick it up for sure. I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm gonna. The other thing I want to add is that if you want Alberta curriculum for grades, let's say grades starting in grade 7, actually you can get it starting in um grade 4 right here. Although that's changed. The grade 4, 5, 6 math curriculum has changed. But if we still have the curriculum for grade 7, 8, 9, if you want, you can go onto the albertahomeschooling.ca website, go under the resources tab, scroll down to Alberta Distance Learning Center, so ADLC, free grade 4 to 9 curriculum and marking keys. And what they do is they cover the 15 most important concepts per Alberta education grade and subject in math and English. Okay. So if you look here, let's go grade 8 mathematics, right? Oh, it's what? Oh, maybe I'm going to have to look at that. Why did that not open? Insecure download block. Okay, that's my settings. Oh, download. Okay, let's do that. So, I go to my download file. Here it is. Here's Math 7. So even though it says like week 1, lesson 1, what these are the 15 most important concepts and the marking keys for Math 7. So if you want to teach math grade 7 and make sure that they understand all these concepts, go for it. Okay. And it's named week because this was sort of meant for summer review preview. So they went by weeks, but really it's the 15 most important concepts in that grade. And it's still very, very current. So let's what they look like here. So this topic is table of values and graphing linear equations. Okay. So it teaches, the whole thing is designed to teach, but it doesn't have a lot of practice work. So it teaches the concepts and gives a little bit of practice, but not much. And then you can supplement practice for that concept from the internet and find some worksheets. Okay. So if you're worried about missing a topic, you can go here and find those. It'll take probably a couple more years before they look at changing the curriculum from Math 7 to Math 12. So this is still good for a couple more years, and it's from ADLC. Hey, all right. We don't seem to have any more questions, so I'm going to probably end it there. And I just want to thank everyone for coming. I hope that was helpful. Don't worry if your kids don't get a concept. They'll get it again in grade 8 and they'll get it again in high school. So, and by then their brains will be ready. No fighting. It'll probably like, wow, I get this now. You'll have a number of aha moments. So don't worry. Math is all around us. You can't stop your kids from learning math and you can't make them. So it will happen. Okay. Well, thank you very much. And thanks for coming. And we'll end it there. And have a good evening.